Hillary Clinton, many reasons she lost to Donald Trump in 2016 and to Barack Obama in 2012, but one reason was that the two men had better visions. Yes, we can for Obama, make America great again for Trump. And so one should not underestimate your ability to invoke their perceptions and capture their imagination for the future. Many people think that this is the negotiation. Here's our transaction. Those people who are more clever think this is also our negotiation, the net present value of the future benefits we can get from each other. Other people think this is also our negotiation, any positive history together. In many industrial countries, it's all about net present value. In many Arab countries, the future is uncertain, but the history of our families and communities is more important. And so there is some cultural sensitivity here, but make no mistake about it, if you think this is the negotiation, you're going to get more than if you think this little red dot's a negotiation. So that means if you go into a restaurant for the first time, you could say something like, this is the first of 100 times I might come here if I get good service. Capture their vision of the future. Where you want to get to all this is what I call framing, which is take all this information and put it into sentences or phrases that gives people an acute sense of what's really going on, capturing their imagination. Is it your goal to make your customers happy? If not, why are you in business? If so, why am I not happy? We've been friends for 1,000 days. We have one bad day. You want to throw it out? We want to meet so many of your goals and needs that you hire us. About 5 years ago in Afghanistan, some terrorists, some Taliban, captured sons of tribal leaders and threatened to kill them. One of the sons' fathers went on a local radio station that day and started quoting parts of the Quran, the Muslim Bible, that the terrorists were violating, and they released the hostages unharmed the same day. Help me help you. I know an American soldier in Afghanistan what they usually did is they threatened a tribal leader to take over the village if the tribe didn't stand up a security force. Instead of doing that, the soldier said to the tribal leader, I think we have something in common. Neither of us wants me to be here. Help me go home. Much more effective. And so that's what I mean by framing. Here's another example. Let's take a look at number 3 here. What is the contractor actually saying to us in number 3? Contractor will not indemnify us for its own negligence. So if you're the consumer, you want to say to the contractor, is what you're saying to me, if it's your fault, I pay? As you can see, giving them an acute idea of what's really going on. Dealing with hard bargainers. Most people start with number 4, I don't like what I'm seeing, so I'm walking away. What I'm suggesting is there's 3 other steps that you can do first to get more and better deals. The first is talk about your perceptions. Do you have a common problem? If that doesn't work, number 2, trade something. Use a third party. If that doesn't work, number 3, use standards. If that doesn't work, walk away. So more and better deals. This is the model, all 20 steps, and I believe we have wild cards, right, Sophie? We were going to hand out some wild cards for you today that have this model on the back. You can carry it around, and you can invoke it and prepare for it in any of your negotiations, starting with goals and ending with next steps. And you'll find it's very helpful in solving your deals. Somebody I know from Google couldn't get a $500 million deal in 3 years, and in spending 2.5 hours with this, which based on the instructions in Chapter 7 of the book, he was able to close the deal in 3 weeks. I have somebody else who lost his wallet with his card in it, and before he called his credit card company, he contacted us to get this card back because it was so important to him, and you'll find you can use it for the rest of your days. Let's see, where are we here? I've lost my place, Sophie. Okay. So let me make some, these are says concluding comments.
Ahead of time. Going too fast.
Okay, what does this say? Okay. Whatever these tools are, none work all the time, but they work more than if you don't use them. And so let's say you're working on, what does this say? These slides are out of place.
The bargaining power in a negotiation, increasing power.
Okay. Okay, this was out of place. Clearly, people usually start with number one. I don't like this, I'm walking away. But I'm suggesting to you that there's all these other things that you can use to give yourself more and better deals. From making emotional payments, to using standards, to common enemies, to trading items of unequal value. So as I said, this is not perfect. Name of my book is Getting More, Not Getting Everything. And so you want to do a little bit better at a time. How many of you know the game of baseball? Some of you do. If you have a 280 average in baseball, which means you get a hit, you get on base 28% of the time, and you get one extra hit every 9 games, one extra hit every 45 times you come up at bat to get a hit, then your average increases from 280 to 310. And that gets you 2 things. One, $10 million more a year in compensation, and second, a place in the Hall of Fame. So I'm just trying to get one extra hit every 9 games. So just do a little bit, don't do a lot at the same time. So let's say you're working on an easy step, and somebody says it doesn't work over here, and they mention some hard case. You should say to them, forget about it, it never works over there. But if you can increase your success rate little by little, you'll be much more successful over time. Don't try to do everything at once. Pick a tool. Try it out. Be friendlier to somebody. Ask if a store gives a discount. Work with it a little bit. Make it your own, and then go on to other harder situations. These are the 12. These are, I think, 3 key questions to ask. Number 1, what do I want at the end of the process I don't have now? 2, who are these people? And given the first 2, what will it take to persuade them? And so, again, every situation is different. Even the same people on different days are different. Here are the 12 strategies from the book, 12 things you can do to get yourself more and better deals. One of the important things that I want to mention to you is none of you is ever going to be me, and none of you is ever going to be each other. And if you try to be somebody you're not, you're going to come across as false and not credible. You're the person you have, and the idea is for you to be yourselves better, not somebody else. Those books and courses that say you're too hard, you're too soft, you have to change, it's a bunch of malarkey. What you should do is not mimic somebody else or not memorize something, but to look at a tool and say to yourself, How would I express myself in this tool? How would I use this? So you haven't just memorized a bunch of tricks or tactics, but you've made this part of your normal communication system, and you become more persuasive people in all the things you do. A lot of things that you are taught in the educational system in China is to memorize things and to rigidly understand the information. This is different. Every person is different. Every situation is different. And as I said, you need to be able to recognize and analyze how the situations are different, what the surprising information is, who the individuals are, and then start to use the appropriate tools. It requires you to process a lot more information from the people and the circumstances around you, but it is both more broadly creative and more specific to the parties involved. This is a very innovative model. I know that China is focused on being innovative. This is a quote that's well known in some circles that says, if you're innovative, people who did well under the old system hate you, and people who might do well under the new system only might like you. Anybody know where this quote comes from? This has been a problem for a long time. So you've got to work at it. You're going to have to be patient with people, and you'll have to, and then you'll be able to get more in the negotiations you do. And this is not, of course, just getting more for yourself. It's getting more for everyone. I tell people, I need this deal to look as good in a year as it does today, or I'm not interested. I demand we meet your goals. Because if you don't meet your goals, you won't meet mine, and I need my goals met. So again, very important to be collaborating with those who are different, especially those who disagree with you. And so now I want to put this up again, and I want to tell you a little story, and then I'll take some questions. Some people have asked me some questions, and we'll see what you think about this model and how it can be more useful in your own lives. And I want to tell you a story about a child. Some years ago, a woman in my class had a 5-year-old daughter who fell in the kitchen one Saturday morning and gashed her forehead on the sharp corner of the kitchen table. The child was hysterical. The grandfather of this child, the father of this student I had, was hysterical. And the student was about to get hysterical when she suddenly stopped herself and said to herself, wait a minute, I'm taking a negotiation course. I'm going to negotiate this. And the child, Aubrey, clearly had to go to the hospital to get stitches. She eventually got 12, and she couldn't go, and she was hanging onto the table for dear life, and nobody could pry her little fingers off the kitchen table. So her mother walked over to her daughter and said to her daughter, does mommy love you? Her daughter said yes. Her mother said, would mommy do anything to hurt you? Her daughter said no. Her mother said, when we get to be big people, do we have to do things sometimes we don't like to do? Her daughter said yes. Her mother said, mommy has stitches, showed her scar. Granddaddy has stitches, showed his scar. And within 5 minutes, her daughter picked herself up and walked to the car by herself. So think about this in the context of what I've been talking about. The mother realizes daughter's perceptions. Daughter feels alone and in pain. The question, does mommy love you, is a vast emotional payment. Goes right into the daughter's brain, And the daughter realizes that whatever happens here, I still have mommy. That's the first increment. But the mother realizes that's still not enough. The daughter's still in pain. So the next question, would mommy do anything to hurt you, makes the daughter realize that mommy is part of the solution, not part of the problem. And within a very short period of time, whether they're children or CEOs or government officials, you can take people vast distances by understanding your goals, starting with their perceptions, and incrementally using these tools. Now, that's not the end of the story. When the book was in galleys, before it was published, one of my readers was a New York investment advisor named Craig Silverman. He knew of this anecdote. He called me up one weekend, one Saturday, and said, I want you to know that these tools are very replicable, that you can use them in lots of situations, and I've got a story to tell you. He said, this morning I went to a blood laboratory for a routine blood test. And just before I was about to get the test, there was this scream from the next cubbyhole, seemed like a little girl, and the nurse left me hanging there without the test and went running to the next cubbyhole. And the screams went on for 30, 40 seconds, and then Craig said, I decided to investigate. So he went to the next cubbyhole, he pulled aside the little curtains, and the scene he saw was a girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, screaming her lungs out. Her mother had her shoulders pinned back. One nurse had her hand pinned to the table, and the other nurse was trying to jam this needle into her arm. And so Craig looked at the mother and said, could I come in for a minute and talk to your daughter? And the mother said, all right. And so Craig walks in and stands in front of the little girl and says, look at me for a minute. Girl looks up, and Craig says, you think your mommy loves you? Girl says, yes. Craig says, you think your mommy would do anything to hurt you? Girl says, no. Then he asked about 30 more seconds worth of questions, like, do you think you can get better without the test? Girl says, no. And Craig said, within under a minute, the girl calmed down completely and was ready for the needle. Craig said, the other people in that room looked at me like I was some kind of magician. They said, where did you learn that? And to his credit, he said, buy this book. Thank you very much. That is my presentation to you.
好的，感谢戴蒙德教授。那么我们给大家一个互动的时间，因为上午其实这个量很大啊，我们下午还有案例要做。那么我们给大家几个提问的机会啊，我们任何同学在这个过程里面有任何的想法或者是这个评论都可以提出来啊。现在就是进入这个问答时间，谁想提问的可以举手了。
Yes, now what I especially want to hear from is I want to hear from the skeptics. I want to hear from people who say, this won't work. Impossible. Or I've had experiences and it can't possibly
那
work.
边后排举手那位
I
男
want
同
to
学
know from the skeptics first. Yes, in the back.
There is one over there already.
Okay, well, I didn't see.
等一下啊，你第二个。
Okay, go ahead.
那个谢谢您有一个 PPT 讲到一个普通的这个谈判者和优势谈判者，也讲到了法国和美国的这样一个这个相当于反向的一个案例。那我发到朋友圈以后，我们一个朋友就问到，就是说，那这个您给特朗普打分打多少？特朗普是个普通的谈判者还是个优秀的谈判者？谢谢。
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I should preface it by saying in 2005, Donald Trump and Trump University asked me to teach their negotiation course. And I turned them down. Trump is very uneven as a negotiator. He's able to make very good personal connections with his base, but he makes himself the issue everywhere else. And with a lot of other people who could do a lot for him. I think he's his own worst enemy. There are many things he could do reaching his goals without being so hostile, without being such a jerk, without being so difficult with people. And that includes with President Xi, it includes with Democrats. You know, you don't have to be like that to meet your goals. And what I would say in the most beneficial light to him is lack of skill. He was brought up in an era where a lot of people acted like that. You are all younger, and you have the benefit of what I tell my students at university. Every semester I say to them, here's what you need to do. You need to continue growing up and take over as quick as you can, because my generation has really screwed things up. Because these tools are new research. It's a new method. And the rest of the world still thinks the earth is flat. Now you know something different, and in the people that you meet, one at a time, one group at a time, you can continue to make change. The major religions of the world, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, others, they converted people one person at a time. And that's a really good model. Okay. Other questions? In the back, you have a question.
刚才这位女同学，后排的这位穿粉色衣服的。
Should I speak in English?
English is fine.
Okay.
But we'll have to translate for us.
I have I do legal stuff. I'm not a lawyer, but I work with U.S. lawyer a lot. I feel some type of lawyer are like really Trump style. I don't know how to handle it. That's the one thing I want to hear about your thoughts. And also, I just want to ask how to handle American sarcasm and how to build trust with lawyers.
Okay, good question. I'm a lawyer. I went to Harvard Law School, so I understand the whole thing. Lawyers were brought up in a way to be hostile. In fact, the whole purpose of the legal profession in court is to take your client's perceptions and fight to the death about them. And so it's built-in conflict. And so I tell other lawyers, just because we can fight with each other, is there a better deal we can do here? Are we so stupid we have to go to a judge to solve our problems for us? Can't we solve our problems ourselves?